Alright, let me ask you something. What if I told you there's a tiny stock trading for just a few dollars? And it's quietly building technology for space AI and defense. Not a hyped company, not trending on social media, and not being pushed by influencers. But something operating behind the scenes where real money is made. The kind of company most people ignore until it's too late. Because the biggest opportunities in the stock market rarely look exciting in the beginning. They look small, unknown, and completely overlooked by the majority. And by the time everyone finally notices, the real move has already happened. Now think about where the world is heading right now. The future of warfare, communication, and intelligence is no longer just on the ground. It's moving into space faster than most people realize. Satellites have become the backbone of modern systems. They track movements, transmit data, and enable real-time communication across the globe. Without them, entire systems would slow down or collapse. And in a world where speed and information mean everything, the company controlling that data holds serious power. Governments understand this better than anyone else. That's why billions of dollars are being poured into space technology. But here's where most people make a mistake. They only focus on the big names, the companies making headlines, the ones already priced high, and they completely ignore the smaller players building the infrastructure behind it all. Because behind every major system, there are smaller companies making it possible. Companies that don't get attention but are still essential. And sometimes those are the ones with the biggest upside. Now imagine finding one of those companies early. Before the attention, before the hype, and before institutions start taking positions. That's where the real opportunity lives. So today, we're looking at a company operating right in that space. A small cap company connected to satellites, data systems, and advanced technology. But here's the twist. It's not just about launching satellites, because launching is only the first step. The real value begins once the satellite is already in orbit. That's where data becomes everything. What you collect, how fast you process it, and how useful that information is determines the real value. And in industries like defense and intelligence, speed is everything. Even milliseconds can make a difference. Now think about a real-world scenario. If a system can detect something, analyze it instantly, and respond faster than anyone else, that system has a massive advantage. And this is exactly where AI starts to change the game. Instead of sending all data back to Earth and waiting for processing, new systems are being designed to process information directly in space. This concept is known as edge computing in orbit. Faster decisions, reduced delays, and increased efficiency. And companies working on this are positioning themselves in the future. Now up to this point, I haven't mentioned the company's name. Because understanding the opportunity is more important than the ticker itself. Most people chase names, smart investors study trends. So now, let's reveal the company. The stock we're talking about is Sidus Space, ticker symbol SIDU, and this is where things start getting interesting. Sidus Space is not a giant corporation. It's a small, early-stage company still developing its business. And that's exactly why it has both potential and risk. Instead of competing directly with massive space companies, it's focusing on a niche. A specific area where it can build expertise and grow over time. And that niche revolves around satellites and data. The company operates across multiple areas: satellite manufacturing, space mission support, and data services. But the real focus is on creating value after launch. Sidus Space has developed its own satellite platform, a flexible system designed to handle multiple missions. This allows them to serve different industries using the same core technology. From Earth observation to defense-related applications, the use cases are broad. And that flexibility gives them an advantage as demand grows. Because they're not limited to just one market. But here's the key point most people miss. Sidus is not just trying to be a satellite company. It's trying to become a data company operating in space. This is where the model shifts. Instead of just building and launching hardware, they aim to collect, process, and sell data. This is known as data as a service. And this model is powerful, because data can be sold repeatedly without rebuilding the system each time. That creates scalability if executed properly. Now think about how valuable data is today. Every major industry relies on data to make decisions, and space-based data is becoming increasingly important. From tracking weather patterns to monitoring infrastructure and supporting defense systems. The demand for accurate, real-time data is rising, and satellites are one of the best ways to deliver it. So Sidus Space can position itself in this growing ecosystem. It doesn't need to dominate the entire market. It just needs a small share to grow significantly. And that's where the opportunity starts to become clear. Small companies and massive industries don't need to win everything. They just need to capture momentum. Now let's talk about what could drive this stock higher. Growth in contracts, expansion of satellite deployments, and successful execution of their technology. These are the key catalysts. If the company proves its systems work reliably, and if it starts generating consistent revenue from its data services, that's when attention begins to build. And attention is powerful in the stock market, especially for low-priced stocks, because it doesn't take much to move them. When retail investors, institutions, or even media start noticing, momentum can build quickly. And that's when you start seeing sharp moves. But this is where discipline becomes important, because not every small company succeeds, and not every opportunity turns into a winner. Citiz Space is still in its early stages. Revenue levels are relatively low compared to larger companies, and the company is still working toward profitability. That means there is real risk involved. The stock can be volatile and unpredictable, and short-term movements may not always reflect long-term potential. This is not the type of stock you treat like a safe investment. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation, and that requires a different mindset. Smart investors don't blindly jump into these types of stocks. They take time to understand the business, the industry, and the risks. And they make decisions based on that understanding, because chasing hype rarely works long-term. But identifying trends early can be powerful, especially when those trends are backed by real-world demand. And right now, space technology is one of those trends. Defense spending is increasing globally, and data is becoming more valuable than ever before. So the real question becomes simple. Is Citiz Space just another small company trying to survive? Or is it positioning itself in a future industry that's still developing? Because if it succeeds, the upside could be significant. But if it fails, the downside is real. And that balance is what makes this interesting. This is where your judgment comes in. Not emotion, not hype, but analysis. Looking at the bigger picture and making informed decisions. Because at the end of the day, the market rewards patience and understanding, not chasing every trending stock, but recognizing opportunities before they become obvious. And sometimes those opportunities look exactly like this. Small, overlooked, and quietly building in the background. Waiting for the right moment, so whether this turns into a major opportunity or not, the lesson here is bigger than just one stock. It's about how you find opportunities in general. Look where others are not looking. Study industries that are growing. And focus on companies that are building real value, because that's where the next big moves usually come from. Not from what's already popular, but from what's just getting started. If you want more videos like this, where we break down hidden stocks with real potential, make sure you stay tuned, because the next one we cover might be even bigger than this. And by the time everyone else starts talking about it, you'll already know the story.